Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from our area command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome all of you to our broadcast tonight. As you know, I am presently suited up here. I had an appointment at 6 p.m. That's why we couldn't get on the air until now. We also had to reboot our computer about 35 minutes ago because it crashed 3 times. So I'm sorry for coming on so late. We wanted to come on because we have some important news for you. Before we get into the earthquakes, I want to talk about Hurricane Idalia, or Idalia. I've heard it both ways in the past 48 plus hours. Idalia is now downgraded to a tropical storm. Idalia has been downgraded to a tropical storm just about 3 hours ago. This does not, I repeat, this does not say that there's nothing going on with Idalia. That, I want to dispel that image right now. There's plenty of information that say that Idalia is still a very powerful storm. It doesn't matter whether it's been downgraded or not. It's presently at about 73 miles per hour headwind, with gusts of up to 100 miles an hour. It's like a 73 mile per hour winds sustained and gusts up to 100 miles per hour in places. Now folks, I want to tell you this. We've talked about Idalia now for 3 days. This is still a current storm. I'm going to show you right now where Idalia is. Notice over here on the map of the east coast of the United States. Idalia is still very much an active storm. The eye of the storm is over in South Carolina. Notice where the outlying clouds are. The outlying clouds of the storm. They go all the way up north and east over here to Indiana, also covering Kentucky, also going up to the north past New York. So this is still a very powerful storm. You see the cloud cover here. The cloud cover can be mean at times. I'm going to show you another Idalia image here. Let me look at what we're going to show you here. Okay, let me do this first. Okay, this is a spaghetti model that we're showing you here, showing you Idalia's path from Cuba going north. From Cuba going north. It shows us taking this storm upwards into southeastern Virginia, then going out into the North Atlantic here. Folks, there's a lot more to this story than that. I want to show you the historical Idalia here, right here. This is what we first thought was a cone of Idalia. This was the cone of uncertainty. Okay, I showed you the spaghetti models of the storm going out into the Atlantic Ocean. This storm shows, or this cone here, example here shows Idalia possibly even merging with Hurricane Franklin out here. Shows it possibly merging with Hurricane Franklin. This is no joke. Again, let's go back to the current model here. Okay, this is where it's at. It's going back out into the Atlantic, but not before the outlying clouds. Okay, we talked about these outlying clouds before. Not without those outlying clouds creating further disturbances up north of the east coast of the United States. Now this storm is going out into the Atlantic. Now, with this storm coming out, it is actually forcing Franklin to move. Franklin has not moved in several days now. It's been a stationary hurricane over here in the central North Atlantic here. Hurricane Idalia is actually forcing some movement of Hurricane Franklin. Last night, Hurricane Franklin was a Hurricane Category 4 storm. Just prior to last night, Hurricane Franklin looked like it was going to be a Category 5. It's a Category 4. Forecasters have said that Franklin probably would not last past today and would peter out to a hurricane or Category 2 to Category 1 and then peter out to a tropical depression going north. It has not moved. There is a possibility that Hurricane Franklin would merge as Idalia goes out into the Atlantic. We will see what happens. Okay? But notice that other storm that's further south and east. Guess what? Here's another hurricane. Another hurricane. It's going to have to traverse the entire Atlantic Ocean going westbound. This is another hurricane that could hit the East Coast. Right now, they forecast it possibly to hit Florida, the east coast of Florida, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. We're going to be tracking this storm throughout the week, the rest of the week. By Sunday, we should know for a certainty where this storm is going to go. Okay? So we now have 3 hurricanes in the Atlantic. This is the first. This is a historic first. It's a historic first to have 2 very active hurricanes, both Franklin and Idalia, over here this far north in the Atlantic Ocean. And then to have this other hurricane coming into the Atlantic from Africa. This will be another first. 3 hurricanes in the North Mid-Atlantic. We'll see where this goes from here. This is very important. Okay? We're only in probably, I want to say, the middle of the Atlantic hurricane season. And yet we have 3 hurricane named storms here in the North Mid-Atlantic. This is very, very important. Okay? I can't stress that enough. Lives can be in danger. Now, after saying that, Hurricane Idalia is a tropical storm now over in South Carolina, but not before making its name known over here in northwestern Florida. It came here nearly as a Category 4. It was a Category 3 when it hit here in Tallahassee, Florida. We still have storms here. We still are having thunderstorms and tornado type storms here in Florida right now. Rain is still coming down in Florida. Now, the area where Hurricane Idalia came in was producing tropical storms, thunderstorms, and tornadoes here in Florida. I believe the thunderstorms and the tornadoes are over. However, Florida is still getting hit with heavy rain in some spots. With that said, Cedar Key, Tampa Bay area, the water is now receding. As about 4 o'clock this afternoon, the water was receding where they were starting to see street level and grass again. But as I told you earlier today, we had 9 feet of water here earlier this morning with that storm surge. That storm surge continued as Hurricane Idalia left Florida going into Georgia and South Carolina. Now, with that storm hitting South Carolina right now, there is still some storm surge around the coastline. Forecasters are worried tonight about Cape Hatteras in that area and Myrtle Beach, North Carolina. I have a friend of mine that's headed with his family to Myrtle Beach this weekend for the first vacation in a very long time. Folks, this could be very deadly right tonight over here in Myrtle Beach. The hurricane is just right here next to the coast. The eye of the storm is right next to the coast. It could be a very bad night. Now, with that said, too, the storms are still pending here. Earlier today, we had, or excuse me, not even earlier today, earlier this evening, we had storms still going and tornado watches and warnings in northern South Carolina and eastern North Carolina, southeastern North Carolina. Even over where NCWQ lives, in southeastern North Carolina. Around Fayetteville, guys, there were tornado warnings and tornado watches. Those have now expired. They started about 6:30 p.m. and I believe those all have expired right now. Deborah says she was just there at Myrtle Beach. I'm glad you got out of there before it started coming in. This was not a kind storm at all. This is still a pretty powerful storm, even as a tropical storm. Does anybody have any questions about Tropical Storm Idalia now? Before I go talk about earthquakes, I want to answer all the questions about Idalia. One of the questions someone asked me earlier, is Idalia going to be taken off the names of hurricanes in the future? I don't know. It could be passed on in the future years. I just don't know an answer to that. I don't work for the National Weather Service, nor the National Hurricane Center. I just don't know. Some power NCWQs here. Rebecca says, I might lose electricity tonight. She might. Those storms that still are over coming out of South Carolina into North Carolina still have the possibility of knocking out power, even where I live. Before I came on the air, we had clouds over the area. However, off to the west of where I live, I did see red sky at night as the sun was setting. As you know, the old saying about red sky at night, sailor's delight. I hope so. The forecasters are saying upper 70s or low 80s tomorrow, with temperatures down to 56 at night. And then total clearing for this weekend and temperatures into the 80s and 64 at night this weekend. So they say the Labor Day weekend should be a very good weekend for temperatures and weather here in this area. That's if and when Idalia finally leaves. Hurricane Heather says, I'm buffering and skipping. I'm so sorry about that. You may have to go out, as you already know, and then come back in. I hope that does not continue happening. Although now even my monitor is buffering here. I'm not even getting a clean picture here. Let me see if I can refresh it here and see if it gets any better. No, that did not. Well, yes, it did. I now have a clearer picture here on my monitor. That's a good thing. Do we have any questions? Don Patoga says it must be just my end. Yeah, we had the same problem last night as well. Any questions here? G. Meisner said we had a very red sunset tonight in Pennsylvania. That's great. I love that. Red at night, sailor's delight. Our brother Rob 52 is here in the chat, one of our mods. He says he's having buffering going on down there in Arizona. I don't know whether Rob knows it, but earlier tonight we had a tornado watch over near Phoenix. A tornado watch over near Phoenix. I did see that as I was monitoring the tornadoes and thunderstorms literally all over the United States. Deborah G is asking what part of Florida got hit the worst. Northwestern Florida got hit. Over near the Bend, what they call the Bend, near Tallahassee, going into the panhandle of Florida. That Bend area got the worst. going all the way down to Tampa Bay area, Cedar Key, Florida, that area. Cedar Key had 9 feet of water in Cedar Key today. The sheriff's office down there in Pinellas County last night had ordered, well, actually yesterday afternoon, had ordered an evacuation notice for parts of Pinellas County. They knew they were going to get hit with that water surge off the ocean. What is that water surge caused by? Wind. There were winds up to 140 miles per hour coming in off of the Gulf of Mexico, pushing water inland, and that's exactly what happened. That wasn't the case last night. There was some rain, but there was no storm surge as of 9, 10, 11, on up to 3 a.m. this morning. The storm really came in after that. It was unreal. Rob52 says, I didn't hear about that. We're going to have some rain starting tomorrow. Yeah, it might be heavy. You guys might be careful. Okay? I appreciate each and every one of you guys. You guys are my family. You really are. I love each and every one of you. I wouldn't want anything ever happen to any of you. Don Patoka says, we have a high smoke level here in Salt Lake City. Yeah, you guys are getting hit with all that smoke coming out of southwestern Canada, which is very unfortunate. From what I'm told, they're still having people setting fires it's arsonist fires up in southwestern Canada, unfortunately. And some of the fires have not yet stopped burning either. I don't think they've got a handle on most any of the fires. Okay? And these arsonists can't keep their hands off of lighters or whatever they're starting the fires with. It's so sad. Deborah G says, so happy Savannah, Georgia is okay. Savannah, Georgia, guys, got hit really bad earlier tonight. They had heavy rain and tornado warnings all over that area near Savannah, Georgia. It got nailed. And I'm glad it's okay now. For a while there, I was wondering whether they were going to survive without any major problems. And they did. They did. Any other questions? I'm happy to take any other questions here. We got very lucky in Savannah, Georgia. We really did. That rain that we had, and those heavy gusts of wind, I heard at one point Savannah was 53 miles per hour. At Moody Air Force Base over there, it was upwards of 56 miles per hour. That was incredible. Hurricane Heather says, rest in peace to the souls lost in Florida. We do not have a clear accounting of any more deaths in Florida. We heard of 2 deaths caused by auto accidents in regards to Hurricane Idalia. Hurricane Idalia helped contribute to those auto accidents, which resulted in the deaths of 2 people. That was reported to be as a result of the hurricane. We don't know of any more. There may possibly be a lot more than that. As I told you, a lot of areas had very high water. And when that happens, we get people that drown, either because they decided to ride out the storm, as some people do with hurricane parties and such. I had a friend of mine south of the hardest hit areas, and she and her husband rode it out just fine. And that was great. They had a big hurricane party with barbecue ribs and stuff. I said, we're on the next plane. We're on the next plane. Mark, throw some more ribs on the Barbie. But yeah, they've ridden it out, and that's a good thing. Still souls were lost, okay? That's what happens when we get these powerful storms. That could have been a Category 4, guys. It could have been much worse. Choloco 16 says, under 40, we have an 80-year-old north of Richmond in charge of nuclear weapons. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it could have been much worse, guys. It could have been way worse. And yet, Mr. B's up there, you know. And, okay, guys, Mr. B, and I'm not trying to give him any credence because I don't like the man, period. As a president, he's about as worthless. No, I'm not even going to go there. He's just worthless. But he is, I don't believe he is the one making decisions. It is a Democrat Socialist Party. The Democrat Socialist Party in this country, the people that surround him are making the decisions for him. If he gives any mouth towards it, it's only because he's been told what to say at this point. He is worthless. I don't think he can make any decisions on his own. Linda Covington is asking, what is the penalty for arson in Canada? I don't know. I just don't know, but I know for a fact that there's been a lot of arson up there in southwestern Canada and probably other places as well. There's fire all over the world, guys. There's fire down in South America. There's fire over in Africa. There's fire in Canada, in Australia, in Japan, fire in China and Russia. Fire is everywhere. Literally all over Europe as well. Okay? NCWQ says, I can't comment on someone who is asleep. You're right. She's absolutely right. Deborah G says, I'm sure he has Alzheimer's. I'm sure he does. I am sure he does. Okay? Anyway, guys, I don't want to comment anymore about him. I want to talk about some earthquakes. So let's go down and look at the earthquake map. The USGS map here. Okay? We take down my banner here. I'm first going to recognize the places where we've had the earthquakes as of late. Okay? Let's go over here into California. Okay? This one is up near Wesley, California. 9 miles southwest of Wesley, California. This is a 3.6, a small 3.6 magnitude earthquake here. Okay? It's still something that we need to take a look at. Why is it possibly serious? Where is it located? Where is this earthquake located? Can you say the Walker Lane Fault? The Walker Lane Fault, guys. That's why that is serious. A 3.6 on the Walker Lane Fault. Down further here in Hollister, California, almost directly east of Monterey Bay. This is also on the Hayward Fault. This is a 1.4. North of there, on the Hayward, Morgan Hill with a 1.3. And north of that on the Hayward, this is Pleasanton, California with a 1.4. So we have a series of ones in a straight line on the Hayward Fault tonight. But let's go further north than that. Okay, let's go up here to near Vallejo, California. Now, folks, USGS has been calling these quarry blasts here. Let's go take a quick look up here and see what is actually happening here. This is very near a quarry. I will hand it this time to USGS. This is maybe twice in the last 4 years that I've been doing this that they've been correct. This may indeed be a quarry blast. This is a surface quake. It's a 0.0 surface quake. Okay, so this indeed probably is a 1.4 quarry blast here. It's literally right next to a quarry, just on the outside of the quarry. Even though it's in line here. It's completely in line on the Hayward Fault. Why do they have a quarry right smack dab on top of the Hayward Fault? Folks, they are working with trouble here. They are flirting with trouble, igniting a blast on the Hayward Fault. This is one of 3 of the most dangerous faults in California. and yet they ignited a blast on the Hayward Fault. And that's what they've been doing with that quarry over the past 10 or 15 years. It's unreal. Totally unreal. So we have all these quakes here. Over closer to the Monterey Bay, this is Aromas, California. This is also on the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault. This is a 1.9 2.0 earthquake. A 1.9 2.0 earthquake on the San Andreas. Further south than that, this is Ridgemark. Also a 1.0 tremor here on the San Andreas Fault. Further south, this is Tres Pinos, California, a 0.7 microquake. 2 years ago, we had a fire here, right after 5.1 here in Tres Pinos. We had a great big huge refinery fire here in Tres Pinos right after a 5.1 earthquake hit here. Today it's just a microquake. Going further south right next to the San Andreas Fault in the Pinnacles area. The Pinnacles area is an earthquake fault, and they are also drilling for oil and gas in the Pinnacles area. Now, you don't see any other earthquakes listed here. Don't trust the agency. Don't trust the agency. I've already been told today that the earthquake capital of California has had several tremors and earthquakes there. They're not on this map. Why not? Okay? Further south here, this is Templeton, California. I believe this is close to the Oceana Fault. This is a 1.2 tremor here. We go further south through California, and we don't have anything more on the San Andreas until we go past the Garlock here. South of the San Andreas, further west, in Montecito, California, we have a 1.1 tremor. We go further south down here, near Los Angeles, and we have some more aftershocks of the 5.1 earthquake hit here in Ojai just over a week ago. It's a 2.1 here and a 2.2 here in Ojai, California today. Okay? Notice up here near Ridgecrest. This is Bonefish, California, just south of Ridgecrest. This is a volcanic area. 1.4 in Bonefish here, and another 1.4 here. Just south of there. This is Tehachapi. This is 16 miles northeast of Tehachapi. It's a 1.0 tremor. Okay? Going up here to the Ridgecrest area in the Searles Valley, we have a 1.4 tremor here. We need to watch what's going on in Ridgecrest and the Searles Valley, and I'll explain that again in a few minutes. We go into Southern California now, and this is only what USGS and the great other agencies down here are reporting. A 0.5 microquake here in Corona, California. Going further east, Loma Linda, where the Loma Linda Medical Center is here. We have a 1.4 tremor here. A 1.4 tremor just southwest of Loma Linda Medical Center. Loma Linda Medical Center is this group of buildings to the north here. Loma Linda Medical Center. Okay? Let's go south. Well, actually, let's go east just a little bit here. This is Bear Lake. Bear Lake. Guys, if you didn't know, Bear Lake here, there's a volcano. Bear Lake area is volcanic. Volcanic. South here is Cabazon. We talked about Cabazon being part of the Anza Gap area. Here's a 0.7 microquake, and I probably, if we looked at the seismograms here. This is probably a 1.5, 2.0 earthquake here. I'm just saying. That's what's happened in Cabazon before. We've seen it happen. Okay? Going further west. Right here is San Jacinto. Okay? 2 miles southeast of San Jacinto. This is Hemet, California, guys. San Jacinto Mountain is east of there. This is Hemet, California. There's 0.7 microquake here. And that's, I'm saying, guys, I've seen, or we've shown you the seismograms from San Jacinto campus before, and it's more than just microquakes. They're not reporting everything. Over here at Idalia, we told you about Idalia in the past. This is a winter wonderland in the winter with ski season going. Right now there's campers and hikers and people all over this area. Tourists. Idalia with a 0.9 microquake here. Going further into San Diego County, the Anza Borrego Desert area is 0.7 here and a 0.2 microquake. Further west into San Diego County is 0.9 in the Fallbrook area. 0.5 also near the Fallbrook area. We go back east here, the Anza Gap area, Anza Borrego Desert State Park. It's a 1.0 tremor. Right here, Anza Borrego Desert State Park is 0.5. Also out here, a 1.1 tremor and a 0.6 tremor. This is La Quinta, California, over near the Anza Borrego Desert State Park. West here, Warner Springs, northeast San Diego County. Warner Springs is a great place. There's a wonderful bakery in Warner Springs. Okay? Fresh made bread. And you can smell it as you're going down the county road, the state road out there in Warner Springs. Stop there and get fresh homemade bread in that bakery there. They have the best jalapeno bread that I've ever eaten there. Warner Springs today with a 1.1 tremor. Further south and east. South and east, this is Borrego Springs, also part of the Anza Borrego Desert State Park. Borrego Springs with a 0.8 microquake. West there is Julian. I told you about Julian. They have hot apple pie and cider there, guys. Hot apple pie and cider here in Julian, California today. It's getting to be fall in Julian. Go there for hot apple pie and cider. Stay overnight at a bed and breakfast or a hotel there. It'll be wonderful for you. What a great weekend vacation. They ought to pay me to talk about that. 1.4 in Julian here. This is also 0.7 in Julian here. Okay? We go continually south here. This is Ocotillo Wells. Ocotillo Wells, just near the top of the Chocolate Mountains. These are the Chocolate Mountains that separate San Diego County from the Imperial Valley. Notice there are no earthquakes visible here in the Imperial Valley today. Really, they're just not showing them. Right here is just south of the border of Progreso, Mexico, with a 1.8 tremor. This is a 1.3 tremor also there. Going down into Mexico here, this is near Delta, Baja California. This is a 2.1 tremor. Let me show you where it's at. Okay, this is a great story here. I first want to show you the volcano. Guess what, guys? This is a Cerro Prieto volcano. Notice that picture of the phoenix that's carved in the lava dome at Cerro Prieto volcano. Over here, just a short distance away from Cerro Prieto volcano, we have an earthquake. Why? Why do you think we'd have an earthquake here? Folks, we talked about this. Right next to this is a geothermal field. where man has drilled into the upper magma chambers of the Cerro Prieto volcano to obtain steam to power turbines to generate electricity for the people here in Mexico. Here we have a 2.1 earthquake right next to the geothermal field right there. Right here is a geothermal field. Okay? All over this area. Okay? Trying to generate electricity, you have earthquakes. Anytime we have a drill point, whether it's for oil and gas or steam from a volcano, it's susceptible to earthquakes. Why? Because the seismic energy searches out these man-made earthquake faults or natural faults in the area, and it fractures rocks. It moves the earth. That's when you have earthquakes. Now I want to really quick talk about one other earthquake before I go into the South Pacific. Actually, a couple more earthquakes before I go into the South Pacific. Notice where this is. This is the Great Salt Lake in Salt Lake County. The Great Salt Lake is here. North of the Great Salt Lake, we had a good-sized earthquake earlier today. Guess where this is? They have a beautiful family-oriented entertainment center here. It's called Wolf Creek Resort. Today here at Wolf Creek we had a 3.7 earthquake. A small upper magnitude 3.7 earthquake. Okay? That's not all, folks. There's more. There's more. Here's a 0.8 microquake aftershock. So we had a 3.7 small quake and a 0.8 aftershock that they've told us about. Okay? Just northeast of Salt Lake City here at Wolf Creek, Utah. Wolf Creek, Utah. Wonderful thing, huh? Okay? We go up here. This is Stonewall Gap, Colorado. Southwestern Colorado. This is near New Mexico, guys. This is a 2.8 earthquake. We go south over to southwestern Texas. They are full of tremors and earthquakes here. This is a 2.2. This is a 2.7. This is a 2.0. Down here we have a 2.8 in Coyanosa, Texas. The other ones were in Toya, Texas. We go further east and north, a 2.1 in Snyder, Texas. We've had multiple earthquakes before in Snyder, Texas. Down here to the south, this is Falls City, Texas. Not one but two tremors here. This is a 1.7 and a 3.2 earthquake. A 1.7 and a 3.2 earthquake, and this here. This is a 2.4 minor earthquake, also near Falls City, Texas. Okay? 3, a 2, and a small minor tremor there. Over here in Missouri, or Missouri, a 2.0 earthquake over here in southeastern Missouri. This is directly on the center of the Pneumatid Fault. We'll talk more about the Pneumatid Fault probably tomorrow night. Going over here to the north, as I told you, we have Tropical Storm Idalia now reigning over in New York. Up here in upstate New York, we have a 1.6 tremor here, upstate New York. This is also in the Appalachian Mountain range here. Okay, look at the range. Starting way down here in Georgia, guys, this mountain range runs all the way up here north. What is it? It's Eastern Continental Divide. That's why this 1.6 earthquake happened in upstate New York today. Okay, it's on the Eastern Continental Divide. We're going to see more earthquakes, I believe, in the coming weeks here on the Eastern Continental Divide. going into Puerto Rico. I want to tell you about this. Northeast of Puerto Rico, we had a 4.2 earthquake here. Notice where it's at. This fault zone, guys, comes out of Guatemala over here. Let me back it out and show you. It starts over here in Guatemala. Okay? It goes past Jamaica. Okay? It goes past these islands that it's named after. Okay? It goes north of Jamaica and skirts the Cuba island here. The southern end of the Cuban island. It goes north of Haiti, north of the Dominican Republic. It goes north of Puerto Rico. That's why this earthquake happened. A 4.2 northeast of Puerto Rico. And another quake there, a 3.9. Southeast of the Dominican Republic, we have a 3.6 here. A 3.6. Down here in southwestern Puerto Rico, we have all of these earthquakes here. These are aftershocks of 2 earthquakes that happened here 2 years ago. I'm sorry, 4 years ago. In December, it'll be 4 years since we had an 8.0 that happened on December 26, 2019, and 2 days later, on December 28th, we had an 8.4. Both those 8.0 and 8.4 major earthquakes happened as a result of man-made doings. Man-made doings, okay? Yes, they were man-made major earthquakes. Who made them? This organization right here. Please don't put this organization's name in the chat. I don't want to be kicked off this channel. Okay? This organization here has a lot to do with a lot of things that we've seen going on in the recent past. We'll leave it with that. But every one of these earthquakes down here in southwestern Puerto Rico have everything to do with that organization. They caused those 8.0 and 8.4 earthquakes 4 years ago. A 2.4, a 2.7, a 2.2. And I'm not going to hit on all of them. I can't, in fact. USGS just stopped me. Okay, I need to talk about a few other earthquakes here before I go into anything else. So we're going to take the map down and start things all over again. Don't you just love that old time song? That was popular when my parents were around. Okay, we're back. Okay, so we talked about all those earthquakes over on off the East Coast and Puerto Rico and such. Over here in the southern part of the world, in the South Pacific, today we had some 5.0 earthquakes and other earthquakes as well down here in the South Pacific. Over here south of New Caledonia, southeast of New Caledonia, we had a 5.0 here. We go north. This is Vanuatu. Northeast of Vanuatu. Port Olry, Vanuatu. Folks, we've had a lot of earthquakes here in the past, and this is nothing new. This is a 5.3 earthquake in Port Olry, Vanuatu. Every one of these earthquakes are very shallow earthquakes. Why are we having these earthquakes? Remember those moderate earthquakes very deep the other day? Guess what? We have 3 earthquakes over here in the South Pacific as a result of all 3 of those moderate deep earthquakes. Okay? The 5.1, the 5.3 in Vanuatu, and this one here, a 5.1 near Santa Cruz Islands region here. Okay? All those earthquakes are a result of deep earthquakes in this region just about a week ago. Over here in Indonesia, Remember, we've had earthquakes over here this past week. This is an aftershock. This is an aftershock of a major earthquake that hit here within the last couple days. We talked about that major earthquake. It was an 8.0. I believe it was an 8.0 earthquake. They had it pegged as a 7.4. They reduced it to a 7.2. USGS had it as a 7.1. Today, a 4.4 magnitude earthquake hit here. It's a moderate quake regardless of what they're calling it as a light. They call it light, I call it moderate. A light earthquake would be a 3.0, 3.5. That'd be a small quake. They're calling them a 4.4 a light quake. It's not. This is a moderate earthquake that caused moderate damage. This is also 175 kilometers deep. It's deep into the asthenosphere. I shouldn't say 175 kilometers, 175 miles deep. Okay? It's a fairly, I'm not going to say it's a shallow quake, but it is a fairly deep quake. Not a big deal. Over here, southeast Sumatra. This is another large 5.0 earthquake here, near Bandar Lampung, Indonesia. This is also 25.8 miles deep. 25 miles deep. This is not in the asthenosphere as these other earthquakes are here, down here. Well, actually, I'm sorry, that's not true. This is a 6.2 quake. This is also 5.5. A 6.2 depth right here. This is 5.5 miles deep. This is also 6.2, 10 kilometers deep. Shallow earthquakes. What I'm talking about is those moderate quakes that were deep. The moderate quakes were deep. These are relatively shallow quakes. Now, you don't see anything being talked about here in Europe. That's a complete lie. That is a complete lie. There's about 20 earthquakes over here in Greece. About 25 earthquakes over here in Greece. Going back here to Turkey, there's about 70 earthquakes over here in Turkey. 70. But they're not telling us about it. There are plenty other earthquakes over here in Europe that they're not telling us about. Italy. Between Italy and Sicily, guys, there's about 35 earthquakes, mostly in central Italy, and most of those are minor tremors. But with swarms of quakes like that, what do we see? Swarms of quake beget what? Larger earthquakes. Earthquakes over here in France and Switzerland and Germany. Over here in the the Alps Mountains here. The Alps Mountains. Earthquakes over here in Spain and also Portugal here. Earthquakes right here between Spain and Morocco. Okay? Just east of the Strait of Gibraltar here. There's several earthquakes here. Over here in the Azores, we have earthquakes. They're not showing them, are they? Not anything, okay? Up here in Iceland, we have earthquakes. They're not saying a word about that. By the way, the volcanoes over here in Iceland here are still moving. We still have hot lava coming out of these two volcanoes here. Okay? Unreal. And they're not talking about it. They're not talking about it. I'm stopping over here in the North Atlantic, the North Pacific in the Bering Strait. There's 3 earthquakes I want to talk to you over here. Over by Kamchatka Peninsula, we have a moderate 4.8 here, 29 miles deep. 29 miles deep. Over here, and this happened just a short time ago, okay? Earlier this afternoon, just before 2 p.m. This is a 4.7 moderate earthquake here. This came out as a 5.1 large earthquake here in the Bering Strait between Alaska and Russia here in the Bering Strait. Came out as a 5.1. They've downgraded it to a 4.7, almost a half magnitude downgrade. What a bunch of crap that is. Okay? Over here in the Alaska Peninsula. Now, while this did not hit on land, this still is a large earthquake. This is a 5.1 earthquake south of King Cove, Alaska. South of King Cove, Alaska. To the south here, we have an aftershock of a 3.8. Okay? The volcanoes are still getting hit here in the southern part of the peninsula here. Going north. Old Idalia volcano is still getting hit. We have swarms of earthquakes here. Old Idalia volcano. Minus 0.1, meaning above sea level. Right here is 0.4. 1.0. Further south here is a 0.1. Okay? Old Idalia volcano is still stirring. How about that? This earthquake here is near Aleneva, Alaska. This is a 1.5. It's south, folks, of Mount Redoubt. South of Mount Redoubt down here. Okay? This whole area is still brewing. Yes, we have microquakes and small quakes. Over here near Valdese and Tiktaalik, Alaska, we have a 3.3 here. 3.3 over there in Tiktaalik, Alaska, near Valdese. You notice we're still having earthquakes over here in Denali. These are all tremors, guys. These are all tremors. This is a 1.6 earthquake in Denali National Park. They have it someplace else, but it's not. It's in Denali National Park. Going further north, this is Manly Hot Springs. Southwest of Manly Hot Springs. Okay? We go north, and I'm going to take you up here because I believe we have something going here. This earthquake is near Stevens Village, a 1.1 tremor. Up here, just south of Katavik, Alaska, this is a 2.8 earthquake. They're saying it's in northern Alaska. Oh, you better believe it. It is in northern Alaska. It's near Katavik, Alaska, guys. This is a 2.8 minor earthquake up here in Katavik, Alaska. Why am I emphasizing that? Just 2 days prior to the Ridgecrest earthquake, we had a 5.0 here in Katavik, Alaska. I am monitoring this place, and I think we all ought to. I think we all ought to be paying attention to what has happened here in the past. Today, a 2.8. 4 years ago, a 5.0 here, 2 days before a major earthquake over in Ridgecrest, California. Now, they're not talking much of anything at all over here in southwestern Alaska. There are earthquakes here. There are earthquakes, and we have 2 volcanoes here as well. Okay? They're all being visited by seismic energy, mostly because there's magma in them there hills. Magma in them there hills. Now, I'm going further south. Okay? Over here off the coast of Oregon. This is on what fault? What fault is this? This is the Blanco Fault. This is off the coast of Oregon. This is a 3.4 earthquake. Twice a week now we're getting hit with small and minor earthquakes here on the Blanco fracture zone. The other one was a 2.8 earthquake over here on the southern end, the southeastern end of the Blanco fracture zone. It was a 2.8. Today, we have this 3.4 over here on the northwestern side of the Blanco fracture zone. Okay? Not too surprising. Over here in Petrolia, California. This is in the southern part. The southern part of the Cascadia subduction zone. Look where it's at. This one is on the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault. And it's just maybe 60 or 70 miles south of the junction that they call the triple junction. The junction of the Cascadia subduction zone and the Gorda escarpment and the Cascadia or the San Andreas Fault here. All three earthquake faults come to here and they break off. And the Cascadia subduction zone is over there, and this is the San Andreas Fault. Okay? Just thought I'd let you know. This is a 2.3 minor earthquake. Over here in the Mendocino Ridge, this is a 1.9 tremor. On the Mendocino Ridge here, 9 miles southeast of Petrolia, California. Does anybody have any questions about any of the earthquakes that we've talked about? Okay? Typically, Wednesday nights we talk about the New Madrid Fault. We had only one earthquake that they showed here. There's a lot more. I guarantee you there's a lot more earthquakes over the New Madrid Fault. And most of them are just tremors. However, there's a good share of small and moderate earthquakes over on the New Madrid Fault today. Over here near the big volcano, Mount Rainier. Just west of Mount Rainier, what do we have? This is a supposedly it's a 0.0 surface quake just west of Mount Rainier. It was not a surface quake, guys. This was 6.6 miles deep. This is a magma chamber leading to Mount Rainier. This is not a surface quake. This is in a magma chamber 6 miles deep west of Mount Rainier. This is a 0.7 tremor. They say it's east-northeast of Ashford. It's south-southwest of Mount Rainier. 0.7 tremor. Over here, northwest of St. Helens, Mossy Rock, Washington, is a 0.9 microquake, a 1.0 tremor. Okay? That's what's really happening here, and a lot more. Of course, they'll never tell us the truth. Tomorrow, I want to give you a quick tour of Washington and California. I want to give you a quick tour of Washington, California. New Madrid, I want to see if we can get some talk of the New Madrid Fault on Friday, as well as emergency preparedness. Okay, that's what I want to do tomorrow and on Friday. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Demon Cat over in England says, jerkiness to frames here, but not buffering. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks, Dean. We appreciate it. Rob says, came on buffering again and again. I'm sorry about that. Right now, we've calmed the buffering down that I've seen here. At times, we've gone from 3,700 kilobytes per second down to 2,700 kilobytes per second. And just about 30 minutes ago, we had them down to 1,400 kilobytes per second. That is bad, and I'll be talking to my internet provider tomorrow morning and find out why. Okay? Could be the storm. Could be the storm. I'm sorry you guys are seeing some buffering. That shouldn't be happening. Any questions about the hurricanes, any of the earthquakes we've shown you. I really honestly felt that we had to show you this tonight. There's a lot of significant activity that we've had here. And believe you me, I don't think the storminess is out of the question on the East Coast tonight. Be aware you may see some storm activity. Rain, light rain to moderate rain, and possibility of tornadoes over near the coast. Okay? Idalia is not over yet, even though it's a tropical storm. Any questions? We've had 64 thumbs up. Everyone, I appreciate that. If you have not already given us a thumbs up, please do so before you leave. Also, just so you know, they keep unsubscribing people. I don't know why they do it. YouTube says, oh, we're just taking off people that have gotten out of YouTube. No, they haven't. They're unsubscribing people. Friends and neighbors, if you haven't already known it, or family members, please check your subscriptions. Make sure you're still subscribed to this channel. Also, if you're not subscribed, please resubscribe. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Okay? I'm talking to two different sets of people, members and non-members of this channel. If you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. Okay? 25% of the people that watch this program are not subscribers for whatever reason. We have a lot to offer here. There's a lot of things we talk about that everyone needs to know about, including emergency preparedness. Prior to Hurricane Idalia hitting Florida, we talked about hurricane preparedness. I gave you a complete rundown on hurricane preparedness. A lot of it is the same thing that we've been talking about emergency preparedness in general. When you're writing an emergency preparedness plan, include every contingency about any kind of emergency or disaster that you might possibly see where you live, in your neck of the woods, as Al Roker would say. Okay? We have a lot to give you here. I am an emergency manager. I've been doing emergency management work since the mid-90s here. Not here on YouTube, but in my career. I've set up emergency command posts on mountaintops during fire season in California and in Colorado. I've been monitoring and going to disasters and emergencies literally all over the United States. I've also done disaster drills all over the United States. I have a ton of experience. I consult with emergency managers literally around the globe now. I consult with emergency managers here in North Carolina, in California, in Colorado, and in Utah. I've been doing this for a long, long time. Okay? When the volcano La Cumbre Vieja was going off in the Canary Islands on La Palma Island, I was consulting with the governor of Spain. I was consulting with the mayor over there on La Palma Island. There were a couple different mayors I consulted with. I also was consulting with seismologists and volcanologists over on the island. I consult with once a week the people over in Pasadena at the JPL. I do a lot of consulting work. I appreciate Don putting up the information about our cards and letters to the P.O. Box of 422 in Valdese, North Carolina, 28690. I appreciate that. If you want to contribute to the program, you can do so also below our program. We have a program description. Our email address is there. We have our post office box address there. We have 2 PayPal addresses as well as a Venmo address. We appreciate any and all contributions you make to our program to help us keep it on the air. When I first started this 4 years ago, I had no idea that it would cost money to keep it on the air, but it truly does. And I appreciate your donations. I also appreciate your donations to help me combat my cancer that I've had. Right now I'm in remission, but the doctor's appointments and the medicine are still expensive. And I still have the bills to keep this program on the air with the internet and the power and everything else. Everything skyrocketed just 2 months ago. Incredible. You guys are helping me, and I appreciate it more than you even know. Okay? NanoGav says the video and audio problems are probably weather related. Probably are right. Wouldn't surprise me. Like I have asked, do you have any more questions here? Vicky K says, I just got disconnected, but back now, I think. I agree, Vicky. Vicky, let us know when you get back to your home in Florida. I would love to know how your home did with the storm. Rob52 has given us a bunch of thumbs up. Guys, please give us thumbs up before you leave. Now, any more questions here before we close it out tonight? I know we didn't start with the Pledge of Allegiance like we usually do, but I apologize for that. However, we have a good reason for it. Okay, we came on too late. Now it's just after 10 o'clock. We came on just after 9. Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, I want to come on at 8. Now, tonight's devotional here, as we have in the past, comes from the scriptures. I want to talk about 1 Corinthians. This time we're in chapter 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 23. This says, and those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor. And our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. Okay? Our body is God's temple. Our Heavenly Father only wants us to have better bodies. He is helping us. He is helping us have better bodies. Now, when we get to heaven, guess what happens? We get a better body, because our body will be restored to the kind of body we had before we had problems. We did not come to this earth to have a body with problems. If it's had problems, it will be restored to its full shape again. That's a wonderful blessing. Now, holistic nurse Aveyah, I love this lady. She just gave us a $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. I really do. Folks, the Lord loves each and every one of us. He hears and answers our prayers. I know that. Please, folks, if you have issues in your life, get down on your knees and pray. Tonight, I would ask a special blessing on the people in Florida, in Georgia, and especially in South Carolina. They need our prayers. This storm has done a lot of damage, and it may have injured and killed people. Those people need our prayers. Okay? Vicky K says the neighbor didn't have any damage, so I expect we will be fine. I hope and pray you are, Vicky. I really do. And anybody else that lives down there in Florida. Guys, I love you all. I tell you that every day, but I mean it. I truly love each and every one of you. Folks, please share this program with everybody you meet. All your neighbors and friends, your family and extended family. The people you work with, and even your social media contacts. Share this program everywhere. Everybody needs to see this program. Pray for those in need in Florida, please. Vicky says she's heading home in the morning. That's great. I'm glad you have a home to go back to. That's awesome. Folks, I care. I care. Please give God a holler. Okay? Pray to God. Pray to Him in Jesus' name. You will be blessed for doing so. That I promise you. I hope you have a great night and a better tomorrow. If anything else happens, between now and tomorrow. We will be back here on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Okay? That includes earthquakes, tornadoes, or any other emergency or disaster that happens. I want to thank our mods here. We have the best mods in the business. We really, truly do. I love each and every one of them and all of you. May God bless you and protect you. God be with you till we meet again. We will see you all on the other side. Good night, everybody. We'll see you around the corner. Bye-bye.